This is Current State of Mind, a story that's dark but so beautiful, something that can't be defined, a nightmare but now a dream. This is a journey I wanted people to see, to feel, to understand. Thank you.
My name is Miriam. Today I'm the makeup artist for this shoot, and I'm actually doing 3 looks, and we're basically right now shooting the first one. So I've worked for 3 years, and I got in touch with Vanessa. I'm a student at BCU at the moment, and brought some of my collection here today, just like a small percentage. So I've worked for 3 years, so I have like lots of makeup. So the first shoot here was just like black smoky eyes and dusty lips and a neutral base on the face.
I'm Martin. I've been doing photography for about 4 years now. I started out after college just taking photos of my friends who I thought had a nice taste in clothes. I then went to study at Birmingham City Uni, shot for a bunch of different brands and magazines. It started off being predominantly streetwear and then sort of blending into more Scandinavian streetwear and menswear.
This photo shoot was about me being uncomfortable, allowing myself to be in a place where I was restricted. The dilapidated buildings was to symbolise my destructive state. This is where anyone or anything came into my life, I felt it was against me, but it was just my own insecurities. The Thomas Cox collection fitted perfectly with the theme. It was bold, daring, and had penises on it, which was all printed by himself, which was pretty impressive. Mixing something so beautiful like his collection with something so dark, which was dilapidated building, was so important. Being gay is beautiful, but at that time my mind was so destructive, it became a nightmare. My makeup was bold but so fluorescent. I needed the warrior impact with the feminine touch, but to show strength at the same time. Because I think a lot of people associate being gay with being weak, and that is definitely not the case. And people think it's a curse, and actually no, it's actually a blessing because it makes you see things in a different way. And I just thought symbolising that with my makeup was very important.
Hi, so I'm Thomas Cox and Courtney has brought some of my collection in his photo shoot today. I know Courtney through other shoots that we've worked on together, and through this then he's decided to work with using my graduate collection with part of his work that he's doing today. Okay, so part of my idea actually links with what Courtney's doing that I did within my graduate collection, and the collection is based on how homosexuals are sort of oppressed by the church and the wanting to break out and be free and to be strong characters. And the print is a sort of representation of the Garden of Eden, which has elements of Venus kind of motifs in there for a bit of extra added humour to break out from that. So I think doing projects like this to highlight the awareness for other men who are experiencing the same issues, be it in their communities. This will actually help them by seeing that people like Courtney and myself do artworks or create fashion collections, and that there are other people out there experiencing similar issues or problems, and hopefully this will be something that can help them gain some confidence and come forward.
I will lie down and sleep. I will wake up in safety, for Jehovah continues to support me. Hey Jim.
Hi Courtney, been a while.
Yeah, just a bit.
Good to catch up and just go through a few little discussion points about what you've been up to recently. Just like to start off by asking you to tell us or tell the audience your story and plans for the next few months.
Yeah, so I've been working on a project I've called altogether Psalms Files, which is about me growing up in a religious background, being a gay guy, and the struggle that I had. So it shows my stages going from childhood to becoming a teenager and how I struggled with it. And it kind of talks about growing up in an environment and a community that kind of denies and rejects who you are as, you know, like your family and your friends. Because when you are in, you know, a religious circle like that and everyone thinks the same, you are going to kind of think, you know, negative about yourself.
Right.
So this project it shows me coming away from that circle, trying to identify, you know, who I actually am, and showing the greatness with, you know, being gay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. What sort of impact do you think this project will have on people, and do you think it's going to have some sort of revolutionary consequences?
The impact it will, you know, have on people is there are many people in religious circles and people who are not in religious circles that find it hard to come out, and they struggle with their own identity. And I think when people do see a project like this, it gives them hope, and it gives them, you know, faith, and it makes them feel like they're not alone, even though they don't know who I am. It gives them, you know, that kind of push to even if it doesn't mean coming out, they're closer to, you know, discovering who they are. And the impact, I hope it would help other people.
Okay, so what you're saying, you're hoping to be a role model for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously not, you know, a role model. I would say some sort of role model.
Okay.
So I'm not perfect.
So this discussion is part of a documentary, but there's an overall project, is there not? I believe called Psalm Files.
Yeah.
So where did that come from? There is a suggestion that it discusses some sort of struggle within yourself, and the idea came as a result of that struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, could you just give us some idea about that, please?
So the name Psalms Files, Psalms comes from the Bible, which we all know. And when I was younger, I used to read the Psalms books a lot for hope. I used to read it, and I used to pray a lot because I didn't understand who I was, and I didn't understand what was, you know, happening. And I used to pray to God a lot about, you know, my struggles and me being a gay person, and if I could be fixed, believe it or not. You know, it's a bit crazy. And then Psalms, like I said, I was using that and reading that a lot for courage, and it's what kept me in the faith, because in the Psalms scriptures it talks a lot about the future and what will happen kind of in the future, so it gives you hope, you know, to keep on going, because there are many times where you fall down, you fall many times. And for me, when I was reading the Psalms scriptures, it was that thing that kind of lifted me back up. But little did I know, it was kind of knocking me down at the same time, which I've only been able to, you know, kind of discover now.
So the young Courtney was clearly inspired from a religious perspective to a certain extent, and looking at religion for maybe answers. However, what do you think? Would you think the young Courtney would agree with the way that you've developed, and particularly knowing what you know now?
Yeah, it's kind of it's a good question. Younger Courtney, if I could speak to him now, I would definitely, you know, let him know that there are other options, you know, out there, because I know from as young Courtney, because I am, you know, there was a lot of things going around like suicidal thoughts. I couldn't get out of this bubble, and if I could speak to him now, I'd let him know that, you know, there are options out there, and it's not a bad thing. You know, it's natural, and it is what it is. You can't change something that God's given you, if you understand what I mean. So, you know, it's not my fault. I didn't choose that life, and I think younger Courtney thought that it was a lifestyle that he chose, and it wasn't.
Okay, so the younger Courtney would have thought that he, as a result of your developments, that was predestined.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where do you want this to take you? Where do you want this project to go from here? I mean, clearly there's a lot of creativity that's gone into it, and quite a lot of artistic content. So it's more than just an individual statement.
Yeah. This documentary, the photo shoot, the poetry, the website, everything. I'm not too fussed on where it goes. As in, you know, like whether 10 people see it or whether 100,000 people see it. It's more about my self-development, and it's more me letting go of that part of Courtney, because that's what I've been holding on for so long. So this is, you know, me letting go. So I guess that's kind of what I kind of want to do, you know, with the project, is kind of rebirth, I guess.
Okay. And how do you think people, how are you going to get this message to people to connect with this project?
Well,
or is it just, are you just thinking it's going to happen organically if it does happen?
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. I do want it to organically, you know, happen. Yeah. And I don't want to be a person to, you know, constantly promote and, you know, constantly be on people's backs, because it's whether people want to see it or not. So, you know, to me, people's opinions, I don't, obviously, you know, you take on people's opinions and you take on board what people say, but there are a lot of people out there, you know, that have the wrong intentions, and they're not very positive about certain things. So sometimes I don't take on board what people say. You know, family and friends, it's always good, and other people, but yeah, so.
I mean, it's very individual, a very individualistic project.
Yeah.
Has it got a universal message?
It has, and I would say, you know, you're not alone. As, you know, cliche as it sounds, that's something that I needed to know as a young person, that you're not alone, because I felt that I was in the dark a lot of the times. I thought that, you know, there was nobody else in my position as, you know, a gay, growing up as a gay Jehovah's Witness. But then you find out that there are many out there who are struggling with the same thing, and I guess I've been that person to come out and turn my struggle kind of into art. And it really is important to tell somebody that they're not alone, especially when they're going through something like this, because it's so mentally draining, it's physically draining, and it leaves you with no hope at all. And obviously when you go down a dark path like that, it normally results into something really bad.
So clearly there has been some really dark moments in your life.
100%.
What's your state of mind now?
My current state of mind is, I'd say I'm content, I'm happy with who I am. And I feel like I'm not alone anymore. I've had so much support and courage and, you know, encouragement of people. It's been great. I thought that this project at times was literally breaking me down to the point where I'd stopped, which was why it's taken so long to come out, because I'd stop and I'd be like, you know what, I don't want to show my vulnerable side, and I don't want people to see that, because I've always been scared of that, because me being you know, in this like bubble, I've always been able to mask myself, mask my identity, if you know what I mean. So people seeing the real me and what I'm about, I was very scared. So, yeah. Thank you, Dan, for joining us. can you just tell me a little bit about what you do for the gay community in Birmingham?
So I'm the booker and do all the marketing for some of the main venues, the Nightingale Club, the Village and the Loft. And then I book all the acts and artists for Birmingham Pride. And then I have my own like sort of nights as well where we raise money for like charities and stuff. So I've got like Glitter Shit, Second South, Booker Club, all different club nights like that I do.
Okay. So obviously with the project that I'm doing at the moment, you're very aware of kind of it's around religion and sexuality. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions and just see how we go from there. So how do you think religion has affected the LGBT community, and have you ever seen any examples?
Well, I know like previously, I think it's affected the LGBT community with like load of LGBT people missing out on love and a full like proper lifestyle that they want to live because they're held back because of religion. They're scared of what their families will think. They're scared of what their church or whatever will think. And I know that from basically my friend was dating this lad and he was so scared to just go on dates with him and stuff like that too. And they really suited each other to the point where the lad actually like, had to end it off because the lad's parents were so they were Catholic, so it wasn't obviously approving of it.
And how do you think that kind of affected the other person? Do you know, because like kind of like had to end things and you know there's love involved. How do you think that kind of like affected that particular person?
As in the person whose parents?
No, the other person.
Yeah, so I don't know, it just made them more angry about religion, do you know what I mean? And I think that's part of the problem is that it's all like, oh, it's religion's fault, it's this fault. Well, actually, it's probably not the religion's fault. It's people taking that and running with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I know that we had a discussion before we started kind of like recording about religion, and it was really interesting that you wasn't against religion.
Yeah.
It was more kind of like you spoke about how it gives people faith and hope. Did you want to just kind of elaborate?
I think some people find it scary, like going into life, and there isn't actually like when you actually sit there and think about it, like there's no meaning to life, and it's like, oh my god, what am I meant to do with my life? Like, do you know what I mean? It can be scary for some people, so I think it holds hope, like you said, for people, and also like a sort of structure to their life.
Yeah.
But I think people take the rules and make them so restricted, whereas it could have been guidelines. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, and stuff like people that are addicts and that, they turn to religion, and it makes them they might believe in something that's not true, but they're actually living a lot healthier life. And, you know, and it opens them up to communities, and they've got support from this community and stuff like that. So I don't think religion is a bad thing at all.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Because I was obviously going to say kind of like the same things. That I love the fact that you don't slate it. You kind of see it from kind of both sides. Because that's, you know, obviously where I kind of am right now. I'm the middleman between it all. So it's cool. And what are your opinions on religion and those who believe it's a choice?
I think. For me, I'm not religious, but when I sit there and read about all the different religions and I see that someone is using religion as an excuse to, I know it's not a choice, I know this, I know that, and sort of throwing them rules about to sort of neglect someone from the LGBT community, that's when I just think, well, that's not what your religion is saying, and that's not what religion is saying. And I think that's what I was saying about like extremism being a problem because people run with it and create their own. I think they sort of brainwash themselves to think, oh well, that's what this is what it needs to be like. Well, if you were created that way, it is hard. Don't get me wrong. Like I know to someone who hasn't had to grow up, and be like, oh, I think I'm gay. But it's sort of like you get to an age, whether you're gay or straight, and I've had this conversation with straight friends where they actually do remember the first time of looking at a girl and being like, oh my God, like she's beautiful. And so they have experienced it. It's just that because it's not torn down, like the gay, like if you're gay, it's sort of like, oh shit, like everyone's gonna hate me.
Yeah.
That's annoying because when you have to sit down and talk to someone about it, they go, oh, actually, I did have that.
Yeah.
Well, so did I, but I had to wait an extra 10 years to come out. Because
exactly.
the media and everything like that. So,
and how it's being perceived.
Yeah, and especially if you had a religious family or you was in a religious community, you'd obviously wait until maybe you come out of that community to be yourself.
Sad,
which is sad, yeah.
And then, which I think is really interesting, do you ever think that, you know, how much freedom, obviously, the LGBT community have and religion, do you think them two could ever coexist, kind of together?
Well, I think it's nice to think that they already do. Like, in most places, you know, like, for instance, say, my brother was getting married and I was like part of the wedding and I was sat there like talking to the priest about me being gay and stuff like that, and it was I never felt like I was being frowned upon or anything.
Right.
So I do think it's massively is now. I do think they are coming together now, but obviously, like we said with extremism, we don't hear about the good things. A priest talking to a gay man isn't going to be on the front of the newspaper.
Definitely not.
Or a priest calling a gay person something bad is going to be on the front of the newspaper. Do you know what I mean? So I think people always think that religion and sexuality really doesn't go now, but I think it does. It's just we only hear about the bad things.
Very true, very true. And obviously I've known you for quite a while, and I've spoke to you various times about, you know, like your anxiety and different things, and kind of when you know, wasn't very, not sure about yourself, but you kind of locked your kind of self, you wasn't very confident. But now I can see, obviously, you know, very confident. And you're very about yourself. So how did you kind of become content and be free with who you are?
But I think the big thing was, all my family have always been like really pro like LGBT. Like my mum and dad used to go to prides when I was like 6 and take me with them and stuff like that. Like, and I've got gay family members. So when I was growing up, I was always around gay people. Even in school, like it seems weird that it was like 10 years ago, but like there was loads of openly gay people and it wasn't a problem in school. So I was always friends with them, and I never really thought that I wasn't being myself until I saw, like, you know, online, and that's when I saw, oh shit, being gay is a problem. Do you know what I mean? And that's when I think I went inside myself a bit. And I sort of said, oh, I don't need to come out, I am what I am, do you know what I mean? Then you hit an age, and you're like, fuck it, I'll be who I want to be. Unfortunately for me, it took like me having shit boyfriends and going through hard things with boys to be this confident. So I do think like, it's like what you're going through now will probably make you 100% more confident being who you are. Like, maybe not now, or maybe you are now, but like in a few years, definitely. And I think that's what it is. It's like learning from my past experiences of, well, if I was myself then, I would have probably helped myself better. Or if I was more confident, I wouldn't have been in them situations. And like I said, having a support system like I did with my family, and I always knew I could be myself around.
And have you got any advice for people who are religious, that are gay, you know, that do want to come out? Have you got any advice for them and any encouraging words?
I think a main thing is that like you're not on your own, and there's so many people that are probably going through this situation. And like you said, you know people yourself going through this situation. And there is like groups out there, like we work like closely with Birmingham LGBT Centre. And I know it's hard because when you look from the outside and you think, oh, I'm not going to a group, the LGBT Centre, it's going to be full of like old gays and stuff like that, it's going to be someone that's not like me there. When actually the reason, I've been there and I've seen it myself, and you do get young lads that probably have got a massive following on Instagram and really popular and stuff, but they know they can go into that space and it's not going to go out of that space. And that's a big thing, is that there is loads of groups, secret groups in the gay scene that they can help you with.
Oh, that's it. Thank you so much, Dan. And we will have a catch up, going out, do something. And I know, obviously, you got Pride coming up. If you want to tell people about your Pride, you know.
Just get tickets.
Get tickets. Alright, see you later.
Bye.
So today we're here with a speaker who's chosen to be anonymous. So she's going to give us a little bit of information about her background, and she's going to answer a few questions that I have given to her.
Okay, hi. I've chosen to be anonymous. I am a student here in the UK. I'm originally from India, and I grew up in a culturally Hindu household. And these are interesting questions that you asked me. So,
so I know we was discussing it earlier. What are your opinions on sexuality and religion?
Well, individually, I think both one's sexuality and one's religious beliefs are something that can be quite personal to people, to individuals. But if you are in a more sort of a collectivity-oriented society, like I come from in India, where the public culture is kind of very obviously, people do tend to hold quite strong opinions on their religious beliefs, and in turn come the sexual beliefs as well. But personally, as an individual, I think that it's up to you. People find meaning in different things. People find spirituality might be their calling. People might find certain ways of expressing their sexuality, giving meaning to their identity and giving meaning to their life. Personally, I don't think my sexuality defines me in any way, neither do my religious beliefs. But at the same time, I appreciate and I respect people who choose to wear those identities as part of their kind of public persona as well. So, yeah.
So leading on to the next question, do you think that religion and sexuality will live together in harmony? When I say sexuality, I mean homosexuality. It's obviously, frowned upon. Do you ever think those two things can live in harmony together?
Yeah, I mean, ideally I would hope they would, and I think, well, we have come a long way. Again, the world is very diverse, and depending on where you are, we're sitting here in the UK now, but you might be elsewhere in the world where it's very difficult for people of certain sexual orientations to really come out and express themselves, lest they be become the targets of religious groups, for instance, But I think our society has come a long way in accepting people of all different sexual orientations. But I think it depends on what religious groups you're talking about as well. And that there are certain religions that are quite open to people being gay, for example, or being homosexual. For example, the Catholic Church, I understand it's okay if you're gay, but they wouldn't perform a Catholic marriage ceremony on you. No. So I think it depends on what you are seeking from a religion as well. I mean, your belief in God shouldn't really come in between your sexuality at all, and your relationship with God is quite personal. So yeah, I think they should definitely be able to live in harmony. Yeah.
So I know with myself, acceptance was something that I always tried to seek from my parents, from God, from everyone around me. That was the main thing that I always wanted, and I realised in the end that it doesn't matter. I need to accept myself and do my own thing. Is that something you've had to deal with? Acceptance, and have you ever had to deal with that?
Yes, but well, I'm going to stray from the topic a bit because I actually haven't had to question myself on these things on sexuality as a heterosexual woman of a Hindu background. I think I've had to question my kind of cultural beliefs in the context of being a woman, for example, and the kind of things that women are allowed to do in several societies, so in different societies. So I think I think, as I was saying before, it depends on what part of your identity you choose to portray in the public. So, for example, if I want to dress a certain way, if I want to do certain things out in public, my religion or my cultural kind of society doesn't allow that back in India. My sexuality is again, being heterosexual is not questioned, but other aspects of my identity are. So I think I've had to deal a bit on that front again, as I said, about my dressing style, or about the kind of people I want to associate myself with, my political beliefs as well. So I think I've definitely had to deal with those aspects of my identity in my India.
And the last question. It's pretty open, but just answer it how you want to answer it. What does freedom mean to you?
I think freedom just means just that's a deep question. I think it's just being in a state of confidence as well as just happiness, and where you're in a room full of people where you don't feel like all eyes are on you, and you're the target of anyone's unnecessary attention. And I think that's how I would view myself. I can just come into a cafe and just enjoy a coffee without anyone looking at the skin or my color, about my gender, my sexuality, and questioning it in any way, and thinking, oh, this person looks this way or is this way, and hence he or she might be good or bad. I think it's just to be free from all those kind of biases and those kind of prejudices. That's what I think being free. That's what freedom I think means. Yeah, to be able to live confidently and just find happiness in your own way, in your own path.
I can feel growth, and the environment around me is changing. I've become infatuated with photography. Every day I stand in the middle of the street to capture that angle. Sometimes photography can make a complex situation so simple. Beauty really is in the eye of the beholder. I knew what that quote meant, but I never truly understood. I set myself a task, and that was to understand what it really meant. So I started socialising with different people, crowds, and entering conversations I wouldn't normally. Having conversations on people's preference, clothing, sexuality, and their comforts. And everyone's idea of perfection and beauty is completely different. Everyone's so diverse. So I asked myself, even if I was to become perfection, I may not be someone else's idea of beauty or perfection. I still may not fit into that community, and people may still not like me. In order for me to love my reflection of what's inside, I have to accept my skin, love my blemishes, and not just be okay in my skin. I have to accept who I am. And yes, if I need to start from scratch, I will. So I did. I started carrying a notebook around with me, writing quotes, locations, and the smallest moments throughout the day that meant something to me. Now, I can't say I'm completely happy, but what I can say is I'm learning who I am. I've built that foundation and I'm ready to build on it further. I've started to do this through spiritual solitude. I'm being schooled about Courtney. It's like attending lectures and taking notes and practicing. Educating and growing is something I will always have time for. I'm on the path to acceptance. Now, I won't rush it. And I know a lot of people say, okay, so what is your actual current state of mind? And I can actually say I'm content.